Tywin Lannister is dead. He's been dead for 25 years. His brother Kevin is dead and has been these past 14 years. Tygett died of a pox, and Garyon got lost in the smoking sea. Not that Kev, Tig, or Gary would have ever likely ruled Casterly Rock, since their older brother Tywin had offspring. Cersei Lannister is the current Lady of Casterly Rock, and has 2 living kids of her own. Jaime Lannister could have been the Lord of Casterly Rock, but he's trying to do some character growth. And Tyrion Lannister is in exile.
Lay off the booze.
Hoping to win a spot on Queen Daenerys' council, while also being potentially responsible for a Targaryen civil war. I don't think that will happen, but it could. Cersei's immediate heirs are Tommen and Myrcella, although Tommen is already the king, and would not become Lord of Casterly Rock as well in the event of his mother's death. That would be a personal union between a major house and the Iron Throne. Recall that Robert gave Storm's End to Renly when he became king instead of keeping the title for himself. So Cersei's real heir is Myrcella, keeping in mind that, of course, her children are legitimate and are not bastards born of incest, a lie that some of Cersei's opponents wish to spread across the realm.
A lie, take it out.
I've worked out the Lannister line of succession as best I can, cross-referencing with a few forum posts and the wiki and stuff. Anything that helped me out, I've linked down in the description. Feel free to pause here and refresh your memory, and type an angry comment about anyone I might have missed. Depending on how wacky George wants to get with it, I can see the succession of Casterly Rock play out in 3 phases from now until the end of A Song of Ice and Fire. Phase 1 is Cersei's realm. She's the Queen Regent, the Queen Mother, the Dowager Queen, and the Lady of Casterly Rock. She holds the power, for now, and would sooner die than give up the rock. Oh yeah, she's also called the Light of the West in Book 1. This goes kinda beautifully. Why'd George stop using it? Cersei is one of Martin's most complex characters, and he's given her this strange gender complex in which she despises the weakness of women and believes she's just as capable, or rather more capable, than the men around her to make laws and rule castles. You couldn't honestly call her a feminist though. Instead of fighting misogyny, Cersei's answer is to wish she herself was a man. I'd say Cersei acts as her very own sycophant, and will hold on to power as long as she's able to. Early in the Winds of Winter, Cersei will have her trial, and she is almost guaranteed to win, thanks to the reanimated corpse of Gregor Clegane, and the fact that Cersei losing her trial means that King Tommen is, in fact, in the eyes of the gods, a bastard born of incest. He's not fit to be the king, but he's the one who armed the Faith Militant to begin with. The High Sparrow has a vested interest in Tommen keeping power. And if Tommen and Myrcella are delegitimized in the eyes of the realm, who takes the Iron Throne? Well, the Faith Militant could try to seize it and rule Westeros itself, sort of like the Papal States, when the Catholic Pope used to directly govern a portion of Italy. But the Lords of Westeros might take issue there, preferring to be ruled by one of their own rather than by a religious zealot. In this case, Euron Greyjoy could make a play for the throne, or even Mace Tyrell or the Dornish Sand Snakes. Really, they'd just be spinning their wheels until the one true queen arrives on Drakenback, and the Faith have bad memories of the Targaryens and their fire-breathing pets. As much as I'd love the political intrigue of the High Sparrow vying for the Iron Throne, I think it's far more likely he just throws Cersei's trial by having the injured Sir Lancel fight the Zombie Mountain. The High Sparrow already made his point by letting the whole city watch Cersei's Walk of Atonement, and he'll enjoy power under King Tommen and Queen Margaery, in the short term at least. Casterly Rock will not change hands for as long as Cersei remains alive. I spent way more time on this topic in my Chaos in Westeros video, so please check that out if you haven't seen it. Tommen and Myrcella are extremely likely to die in the Winds of Winter. Recall those sand snakes I mentioned earlier. So even then, Cersei would just retreat to the rock and establish her rule of the Westerlands, perhaps allying with Euron Crowseye to destroy the Reach and the Tyrells, who Cersei will suspect of killing her children, just as she suspected them of freeing Tyrion. and land herself back in King's Landing. But we'd all do well to remember who's living inside the walls of the Red Keep right now. Varys the Spider. Varys killed Kevan Lannister in the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons, after giving his monologue about Aegon. For years, probably since before the books even began, Varys has been working with Illyrio to pave the way for a Targaryen restoration in Westeros. Aegon has been shaped for rule since before he could walk. Tommen has been taught that kingship is his right. Aegon knows that kingship is his duty, that a king must put his people first and live and rule for them. Here's some quick background for the uninitiated. This Aegon is supposedly Rhaegar's son, who apparently did not get his skull bashed against a wall by Tywin Lannister's men during the sack of King's Landing, and who has been raised in Essos with Jon Connington and a little family of Westerosi expats. Aegon's also Daenerys' nephew, but he's 18 years old. Dany's only 15, turning 16. The point is, Cersei's time is running out. Varys told a dying Kevan that he was doing too good a job ruling Westeros, meaning that Varys is just waiting for Cersei to collapse, and then he'll prop up Aegon as the shiny new solution to all the realm's problems. Aegon, by the way, is currently taking Storm's End with the Golden Company. Unless he decides to delay taking the capital, establish a power base and an army at Storm's End, and wage war westwards against Euron Greyjoy, Aegon will be taking King's Landing from Cersei in the Winds of Winter. And Varys might have his own Lord of Casterly Rock too, one who will be loyal to King Aegon VI and provide an army of Westermen to take down King Euron. This would be Tyrek Lannister, only son of Tyget, nephew of Tywin, first cousin of Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion. Tyrek, being a male, would come before Jenna and her family in the line of succession. He's third in line to Casterly Rock after Kevan's kids, Martin and Jaime. The thing is, Tyrek is missing, and presumed dead. Recall there was a hungry mob that attacked Joffrey's party on their way back to the Red Keep after bidding farewell to Myrcella. Tyrek went missing in that mob, and is presumed to have been killed by them. However, Tyrion, Tywin, and Adam Marbrand failed to find Tyrek's body. If we're going by Marvel rules, no body equals maybe still alive. One of the more underratedly messed up things George has ever written is the circumstance of Tyrek's marriage. Tyrek is Sansa's age, about 13 or 14, which already is too young, but his bride is Ermesand Hayford, the ruling lady of Hayford, who is also a literal infant, born in 298 AC. Tyrek is forced to marry this baby so that Hayford will be inherited by their Lannister son in the future. In a world where women already have extremely little autonomy, this one has had her entire life predetermined before she could even walk. If Ermesand had any sort of coherent thoughts, she'd be pretty stoked to hear Tyrek is dead. But maybe he's not. The theory that Tyrek remains alive actually comes from Jaime Lannister.
I always knew you were the stupidest Lannister.
Well, Cersei, your brother lover is actually kind of smart. He notices that Varys was absent at the riot, which makes sense if he was the one who arranged it, and arranged for some of his little birds to whisk Tyrek away to safety. Jaime believes Varys would steal Tyrek due to Tyrek's knowledge of King Robert, specifically the matter of his death. Tyrek used to be Bob's squire, just like Lancel, and was a first-hand witness of all the strong wine they were told by Cersei to overserve Robert. Varys could use Tyrek's testimony in an effort to oust Cersei from power, but he didn't play this card when Cersei got arrested, and now that she's opting for a trial by combat, it won't even matter probably. So Varys has other uses for Tyrek. Another clue that Varys is involved comes from this line in Book 3. Hand of the King Tywin Lannister asks Varys about him, and Varys says, "Alas, our beloved Tyrek has quite vanished, the poor brave lad. He was close to tears." This false display of sorrow is natural for a former mummer, and Varys actually did this exact same thing with Hand of the King Tyrion in Book 2. "Your own sweet sister," Varys said, so grief-stricken he looked close to tears. "It is a hard thing to tell a man, my lord. I was fearful how you might take it. Can you forgive me?" This is the way Varys speaks when trying to lie about how much he knows. He knows exactly what happened to Tyrek, and will reveal him someday soon. In 1999, George was asked if we'd ever get confirmation about Tyrek's disappearance, and George said, "Yes, you will. I try not to leave too many loose ends, but sometimes you need to wait." We've been waiting for 26 years, and we'll have to wait a few more, until King Aegon makes his play for the throne and needs a loyal lord of Casterly Rock. Varys saved Tyrek's life from the mob, removed Tyrek from the laughably depressing marriage he was forced into, so bad that bullies called him wet nurse, and plans to install him as one of the most powerful lords in Westeros. All Varys needs to do is get rid of Cersei, Martin, and Dany, which shouldn't be too difficult for the spider. But what happens when Aegon inevitably dies? I see Aegon as a doomed character, and redundant as well. We don't need another Targaryen trying to reclaim their ancestral seat once Daenerys comes west, and we don't need another secret son of Rhaegar once Jon finds out about his parentage. Aegon is a short-term complication in the politics of southern Westeros, but won't live long enough to do anything substantial. I think he'll die before getting a chance to marry Dany and claim Rhaegal or Viserion, and I think this very lack of dragons will be his doom in the fight against Euron, who may control a dragon via that Valyrian horn he gave Victarion. Aegon won't become one of the three heads of the dragon, and won't lead humanity in the fight against the others. And because Tyrek Lannister is narratively linked to Aegon, it makes sense that he'll go out at the same time, probably leading a Lannister army against Euron in the south. I don't actually see Daenerys sitting in King's Landing as queen for any significant period of time. She'll realize her true purpose is in the north, fighting the others with Jon and Bran and the armies of men. But one of the few decisions Dany does make could be Casterly Rock. Technically, Tyrion is the rightful lord, but he was publicly sentenced to death in Book 3, and then became a fugitive in the east, and will come back home an advisor to the scary Dragon Queen. I don't think Dany wants to start her reign by forcing the Westerlands to accept the widely hated villain Tyrion to be their new lord at the threat of Dragonfire. It's just not feasible for Tyrion to rule Casterly Rock, and that's part of his tragedy. It's his by right, but he won't get it, nor does he deserve it really. He hates the Lords of Westeros, as he said in his trial monologue, and he's done some extremely horrible things. It would feel weird for George to reward Tyrion with the Rock. Instead, I've theorized in the past that Tyrion will become somewhat white-pilled by Daenerys. Her bravery and dedication to what's right, freeing the slaves, exacting justice on the masters, etc., will bring Tyrion away from the abyss he's been in since Book 3. He won't necessarily redeem himself, but he'll go on the path of redemption, a parallel to his brother Jaime, who's on a similar path of his own. Could Tyrion have some character growth and let go of his hatred for his family and his desire for Casterly Rock? Perhaps Tyrion will take the black and join his fellow bastard Jon Snow on the Wall. They'll need a new Lord Steward because Bowen Marsh is a traitor, not a boy's boy at all. This would make Tyrion's arc come full circle, as he began the story up north with Jon, pissing off the Wall. It's where Tyrion belongs, not playing politics in the south. But who gets Casterly Rock? Enter Tyrion's daughter, who he'll take the black for to let her have his seat. Lanna is a golden-haired 14-year-old sex worker at the Happy Port in Braavos. She's the daughter of the sailor's wife, another sex worker who many readers theorize is Tysha, Tyrion's ex-wife who was brutally mistreated by Tywin and disappeared from the Westerlands. The puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. Tyrion asks his father where Tysha went after the assault, and Tywin answered, "Wherever whores go." They go to brothels like the Happy Port, where the sailor's wife works with a daughter called Lanna who is the right age to be Tyrion's daughter. There's another Lanna Lannister in the story right now, the first cousin twice removed of Tywin. Perhaps a clue, as it makes us readers associate the names together, Lanna and Lannister. But how would Tyrion find her? Why would he go to Braavos? Well, Daenerys is linked to Braavos. It's where she believes she spent the first 5 years of her life, at the house with the red door and the lemon tree outside her window. But George wrote 3 times in the books that lemon trees don't grow in Braavos. And I own a copy of the very first A Song of Ice and Fire material ever published, a draft of Dany's chapters from book 1. And here it says the house with the red door was in Tyrosh, not Braavos. George changed it for the official release. Lastly, George himself has said there is something going on with the house with the red door and lemon trees, but he'll reveal it in either Winds or Dream. So this points to Dany making a stop in Braavos to perhaps find her old home before heading off to Westeros, her new home. Meanwhile, Tyrion will hear about Lanna. The Happy Port, the brothel where she works, is near Ragman's Harbor, which is probably the harbor Tyrion will use since this one is open to foreign ships, not exclusive to Braavosi ships. While docking, Tyrion will overhear about the sailor's wife and her golden-haired daughter, born shortly after he parted with Tysha. He's obsessed with his father's words, wherever whores go, and so Tyrion will enter this brothel and find his ex-wife Tysha and his daughter Lanna. I think this sort of has to happen, narratively speaking, to resolve Tyrion's arc. He spent his whole life believing Tysha was just some whore Jaime paid to take Tyrion's virginity. But before they say goodbye in Book 3, Jaime confesses that Tysha was genuinely a crofter's daughter and had truly loved Tyrion. He hates Jaime for keeping this secret, and after confronting and killing Tywin about it, Tyrion is obsessed with that phrase, wherever whores go, wherever whores go. It's like Jon's recurring dream of the Winterfell crypts. George repeats the motif so much that it would just be unsatisfying if left unresolved. To honor Tysha and to spite Tywin, Tyrion will ask Queen Daenerys to install Lanna as Lady of Casterly Rock. It's hers by right as Tyrion's heir, and it would make evil old Tywin turn in his grave to see that, in the end, Tyrion did turn Casterly Rock into his whorehouse.
But neither gods nor men will ever compel me to let you turn Casterly Rock into your whorehouse.
The former child prostitute Lanna will inherit Casterly Rock. Let me know down in the comments who you think could inherit the West in the Winds of Winter and beyond. Thanks for watching and subscribing.